Hey everyone, hello and welcome to another Industry Headlines. Kevin Kauffman and Fred Weaver here with you, and pretty few noteworthy things going on the last week in the real estate industry, right?
Yeah, some big changes, which, one of them seemed like it came fairly unheralded, if you will.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember when you brought it up to me, you're like, wait, that happened?
Yeah.
So yeah, we've talked about this a few times now on the show, but Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are now actually officially allowed to retain their money.
So they're here to stay. Like a few years ago, there was conversation about conservatorship and like maybe winding them down, right?
Yeah.
But now with it's official, like through the courts, and there's some rulings that actually stipulate some money, right, that can go back to these entities.
Yeah. So what's been happening again for those of you who didn't listen to the last couple episodes that we talked about this is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for the last 10 years have given all of their money, all of their profits to the Treasury.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people think of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac as like not even profitable companies, but the reality is they make a lot of money.
Yep.
Over the last 10 years, it's been $300 billion that they've given the Treasury. And so they are now allowed to retain their earnings. Previously, they weren't able to keep more than $3 billion on hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now Fannie Mae is permitted to keep up to $25 billion, and Freddie Mac is going to be permitted to keep up to $20 billion. So $45 billion total overall they're allowed to. And this is kind of the first part of the reform, if you will, of these companies.
Step one, if you will,
and the
almost.
mortgage market. So I guess the government is going to have to stop robbing them for a little while. Did I say that?
Well, we know you're opinionated on this subject, not biased at all as a shareholder and everything else. But anyway, so in other news this week, I thought this was really interesting. There's a company by the name of Prevu, Prevu, that just raised a couple $1 million of seed funding. That's not maybe the interesting part. They're trying to disrupt the home buying process. What I thought was interesting in the industry headline was the fact that they are doing this in New York City. Like of all markets, they decided that they're going to build a platform of technology and try to disrupt New York City.
Yeah, I think it's because of the super high prices in New York City. So being able to give back some of that money, I mean, the commission dollars get really big there.
Yeah, and this won't surprise you, but they're trying to go direct to consumers. They're trying to then direct them to real estate agents, but in the process of all that, they're trying to give 2% of the commission back to the buyer in the form of a rebate. So this has sort of been done before by other companies, hasn't necessarily proven to be what can grow your company in a big sustainable way, but we'll see what happens with it. It should be kind of interesting.
It's another disruption. And then the big news this week at EXP is EXP launched its own instant offer platform.
Yes.
Now, I use the word platform because it's not necessarily a program where EXP themselves are not buying property as a company, but they are providing a marketplace or platform for other investors, iBuyers, to come and purchase listings from EXP agents that are brought to them.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of brokerages around the country try to get into the iBuyer game. Some have affiliated with like one company, Keller Williams and OfferPad as an example.
Right.
Others have gone out and said, we're going to form our own iBuyer, so we're raising capital or we're taking capital that we have to actually purchase the home direct from the homeowner. EXP's going the route of saying, you know what, we're going to go ahead and create a marketplace where investors that buy large numbers of homes in certain parts of the country can essentially give us their buy box, and then our agents can run properties through our system to see which buy boxes the property that they're looking to potentially sell it might fit, and receive back multiple offers on the property. So It's an interesting thing. I like where they're going. I think potentially the miss in all of this is that nobody yet has really figured out how to bring all offers to the table, right? Because you have all these individual companies, and some of them don't want to open up their API into others. Others are willing to give their money to people, and so it's really interesting. EXPs is going a little bit more towards the institutional buyer, right? So I'll use an example of
Wedgwood is the biggest one.
Wedgwood, right? Okay, that's a good one. Like in Phoenix, there's a couple thousand homes every single year that are bought by institutional buyers. So it's interesting to see all these matchups and all these people coming together to form some different things. So stay tuned. I'm sure this is not the last disruption we'll hear in the iBuyer space. It's probably not the last iteration of most people's iBuyer programs, but it's interesting to see what's happening out there.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.